my god, I freaking love I love my new opening so much. I love it so much. The and that last song is it's so good. It's so good. Okay. What the fuck did you put in those brownies? Hi, cutie pies. Hi. Hello. Hello. Katsum, hello. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in, welcome in. Slickies, I see a Slickies. Guys, it's Slickies. Slickies is here. Shh, I'm focused on Slicks. Oh, no ASMR redeems tonight. No. I'll get that refunded, buns. We're doing reading. I mean, it's ASMR reading, but we're doing reading tonight. Speaking of, let me get some music. I put her on mute. You have my full attention. No, I can refund those points. Shh, quiet. No rah. Thank you, Coon. Thank you, Coon. There we go. Some music. Gotta set the stage and such and whatnot. Oh, phone, please. Okay. No raw. Hi, Slickies. It's so good to see you. I DM'd him earlier today because I was like, man, it feels like it's been a minute. I gotta, you know how it is. You gotta do a little check-in on your friends. It's important. You picked the one ASMR redeem that I didn't pause for tonight. Yeah, I brought Dreamy back. I did. Space Vaquero. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Yeah, I figured you'd especially appreciate Dreamy coming back, Buns. Oh, goodness. It has been so overcast. It's been so overcast today, so dreary. Last few days, it's been super overcast, super dreary outside. That was hot. Ow. Ooh. Thank you for the hydrate. Ow. I thought I'm never getting my tea at the right fucking temperature ever. Oh my god. Ooh. Holy shit. Okay. Finally a redeem I can get behind. Oh, the worst part is I took a big sip. I have zero skill. There. It's not inspiring. Stop it. Yeah. Holy cow. Thank you for the alert, Karen. Ooh, okay. Jesus Christ. Okay. I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh my god. That took me out. Man. Is our music level okay? I thought your cat hurt you or something. No, I hurt myself. Okay. See, it's at a good hot for like little sips. Not, oh my god, not for the whole, not for a mouthful. Oh my god. Oh, don't do that. I didn't mean to. Dreamy's eyes. I know, Dreamy's so cute. I'm gonna try to try to keep him around. And the music sounds good. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll just let Dreamy take over. You guys don't want to see me anyway. We'll have Dreamy. We'll have Dreamy stream. Yeah. Yeah, though, like, just put Dreamy in the hat. No, Dreamy already has a hat. No. Yeah, it was so dreary today, so dreary, and it was just another day. It was just another work day. Though I started watching Scream, the OG, on one of my screens while I was working today. So that was fun. That was fun. I didn't wear a hat to match. No. No. I kept getting annoyed last night with how my big ass head would clip through the hat. So no, absolutely not. We missed the hat. Okay. Okay. Doesn't want the hat to upstage her again. Okay. All right. Okay. I see how this stream's gonna go. Sounds like a good day, all things considered. Yeah, it wasn't a bad day. It was just a normal day, just an average day. I do have a big ass head. It literally kept poking out of the hat. Like every other stream, true. Justice for hat. Hi, Spiritual. How you doing? Okay, I am going to mute for just a second so I can blow my nose because allergies, the usual. The usual. Oh, please. All right. Liam was paying attention to your voice. Not the best. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, give me 1 second. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Now there's a little ghost on the shoulder. Yeah, you like my little pal, Dreamy, spelled with 2 E's. What's up, Jones? How you doing? Bro, that's like one of my nightmares, imagining forgetting to mute myself after, like, especially when I have to blow my nose, because it's like the most unattractive sound in the world. I just go like oh, Spazzy, you building a tower for your kitties, for your new kitties? Yeah, honk. Dreamy waiting room. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Spiritual. I'm very sorry to hear that. Thank you for the ASMR sounds. Oh my goodness. But yes. Tonight we will be reading some more Frankenstein. Some more Frankenstein from the lovely Mary Shelley. Why did I buy a 3-story monolith? But usually not. Like, I haven't. Well, to be fair, I don't have cat towers though. I have a buttload of Kimmy. I can't talk tonight. I swear to God. Good night to read. I have several. She has boxes. I have several kitty hammocks for my little zoo, my little cat zoo, my cat haven. Probably just be lurking around to listen. By all means, Spiritual. By all means. By all means, sweetie. Show me the damn cat. Cat hammocks. Yeah, I do have. I have a bunch of kitty beds, kitty and pupper beds. Cat got your tongue. I hate it here. Hi, Nikki. This shit has a hammock, a hidey hole, 3 scratch posts, plus levels. I would love to have like a really elaborate, huge thing for my cats. They would, they'd love it. They would love it. I have to go for now, but I'll be back once I reach my destination. Of course, Slickies. Of course. Can I pay my taxes? I told you to shut up. I also said I missed you. These little cuties better like it. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Were you being loud? But yes. We are. We're reading Frankenstein. We are on chapter 12 now. We're on chapter 12. 12 out of... First rat, don't pay your taxes and evade the IRS. Debating with her. Yeah, okay. In bun speak, that means that she was bratting to me. Back to the grind. Trying to fall for her sister. Oh, God. Don't tell me that. Rocking out to reading time. Heck yeah. Yeah, we're chapter 12 out of 24 right now. Okay. Let me get it up on my screen. Where is the book? There it is. As you can see, it's behind me. We're at the point where we are reading from the creature's perspective. Yeah. Which is really... I missed the whole chapters. Read it again. Kind of. He's recounting his perspective to Frankenstein. Or he's recounting like basically what's happening. I just messed up my sound. I swear to God. Barely touching. Let me see. There we go. Just barely touching the microphone. He had to meet Best Boy Victor. I hate Victor so much. I really do. Tapped out for 3 seconds and I think you have an OBS crash. Oh. I was like, wait, what? Hi, Sylvanesti. Happy Spooky Week. Hi, Stock. I saw that too. You saw what? Reading the captain's letter to his sister of Victor. Okay, yeah. Victor retelling what the monster retelling what he went through. I mean, yes. Lagging. And am I lagging? I don't look like I'm lagging on my side. No, okay. I'm like, guys, please, we've had some good luck lately. Oh, the audio glitch. Oh, okay. I see. Oh, it's hot. That was really hot. Okay. All right. Now, everyone, settle in. Get nice and comfy. Do whatever you're doing. Oh, Stock, I'm so sorry, sweetie. This is English only. Just because I feel left out. I feel left out if I can't understand what people are saying. I'm selfish like that. 7 stream streak. Let's go, Nikki. Spooky season streak. Heck yeah. These are killing the story up. Okay. Chapter 12. I lay on my straw, but I could not sleep. I thought of the occurrences of the day. What chiefly struck me was the gentle manners of these people, and I longed to join them, but dared not. I remembered too well the treatment I had suffered the night before from the barbarous villagers, and resolved, whatever course of conduct I might hereafter think it right to pursue, that for the present I would remain quietly in my hovel, watching and endeavoring to discover the motives which influenced their actions. The cottagers arose the next morning before the sun. The young woman arranged the cottage and prepared the food, and the youth departed after the first meal. A VTuber that can read? Brother's knees dislocated? Oh my goodness. Yikes. Hi, Yurei. Hi, honey. Welcome in, cutie pies. You guys should follow my friends. They're good. They're good peoples. They're good peoples. Yeah, we're reading Frankenstein, you guys. Getting into the spooky ooky spirit. Follow you all home. You sillies. This day was passed in the same routine as that which preceded it. The young man was constantly employed out of doors, and the girl in various laborious occupations within. The old man, whom I soon perceived to be blind, employed his leisure hours on his instrument or in contemplation. Nothing could exceed the love and respect which the younger cottagers exhibited towards their venerable companion. They performed towards him every little office of affection and duty with gentleness, and he rewarded them by his benevolent smiles. They were not entirely happy. The young man and his companion often went apart and appeared to weep. I saw no cause for their unhappiness, but I was deeply affected by it. If such lovely creatures were miserable, it was less strange that I, an imperfect and solitary being, should be wretched. Yet why were these gentle beings unhappy? Excuse me. They possessed a delightful house, for such it was in my eyes, and every luxury. They had a fire to warm them when chill, and delicious viands when hungry. They were dressed in excellent clothes, and, still more, they enjoyed one another's company and speech, interchanging each day looks of affection and kindness. What did their tears imply? Did they really express pain? I was at first unable to solve these questions, but perpetual attention and time explained to me many appearances which were at first enigmatic. A considerable period elapsed before I discovered one of the causes of the uneasiness of this amiable family. It was poverty, and they suffered that evil in a very distressing degree. I can read, I promise. In a very distressing degree. Oh my god. Okay. Their nourishment consisted entirely of the vegetables of their garden and the milk of one cow, which gave very little during the winter, when its masters could scarcely procure food to support it. They often, I believe, suffered the pangs of hunger very poignantly, especially the two younger cottagers, for several times they placed food before the old man when they reserved none for themselves. It's the VTuber side setting in. One syllable at a time if need be. This trait of kindness moved me sensibly. I had been accustomed, during the night, to steal a part of their store for my own consumption, but when I found that in doing this I inflicted pain on the cottagers, I abstained and satisfied myself with berries, nuts, and roots, which I gathered from a neighboring wood. I discovered also another means through which I was enabled to assist their labors. I found that the youth spent a great part of each day in collecting wood for the family fire, and during the night I often took his tools, the use of which I quickly discovered, and brought home firing sufficient for the consumption of several days. I remember the first time that I did this, the young woman, when she opened the door in the morning, appeared greatly astonished on seeing a great pile of wood on the outside. She uttered some words in a loud voice, and the youth joined her, who also expressed surprise. I observed, with pleasure, that he did not go to the forest that day, but spent it in repairing the cottage and cultivating the garden. By degrees, I made a discovery of still greater moment. I found that these people possessed a method of communicating their experience and feelings to one another by articulate sounds. I perceived that the words they spoke sometimes produced pleasure or pain, smiles or sadness, in the minds and countenances of the hearers. This was indeed a godlike science, and I ardently desired to become acquainted with it. But I was baffled in every attempt I made for this purpose. Their pronunciation was quick, and the words they uttered not having any apparent connection with visible objects, I was unable to discover any clue by which I could unravel the mystery of their reference. By great application, however, and after having remained during the space of several revolutions of the moon in my hovel, I discovered the names that were given to some of the most familiar objects of discourse. I learned and applied the words fire, milk, bread, and wood. I learned also the names of the cottagers themselves. The youth and his companion had each of them several names, but the old man had only one, which was father. The girl was called sister, or Agatha, and the youth Felix, brother or son. I cannot describe the delight I felt when I learned the ideas appropriated to each of these sounds and was able to pronounce them. I distinguished several other words without being able as yet to understand or apply them, such as good, dearest, unhappy. Aga. Close. Thank you for the like, Shadow. So much more sophisticated than the gaming streams, the duality of Banshee. You gotta have variety. Variety is the spice of life. I spent the winter in this manner. The gentle manners and beauty of the cottagers greatly endeared them to me. When they were unhappy, I felt depressed. When they rejoiced, I sympathized in their joys. I saw few human beings besides them, and if any other happened to enter the cottage, their harsh manners and rude gait only enhanced to me the superior accomplishments of my friends. The old man, I could perceive, often endeavored to encourage his children, as sometimes I found that he called them, to cast off their melancholy. He would talk in a cheerful accent, with an expression of goodness that bestowed pleasure even upon me. Agatha listened with respect, her eyes sometimes filled with tears, which she endeavored to wipe away unperceived, but I generally found that her countenance and tone were more cheerful after having listened to the exhortations of her father. It was not thus with Felix. He was always the saddest of the group, and even to my unpracticed senses, he appeared to have suffered more deeply than his friends. But if his countenance was more sorrowful, his voice was more cheerful than that of his sister, especially when he addressed the old man. Might actually fall asleep to this. Good, good. I hope so. I hope so. Hi, Dragon. Welcome back. Oh, Dreamer's back. Dreamy's back. I could mention innumerable instances which, although slight, marked the dispositions of these amiable cottagers. Why do I try to keep saying cottages? In the midst of poverty and want, Felix carried with pleasure to his sister the first little white flower that peeped out from beneath the snowy ground. Early in the morning, before she had risen, he cleared away the snow that obstructed her path to the milk house, drew water from the well, and brought the wood from the outhouse, where, to his perpetual astonishment, he found his store always replenished by an invisible hand. In the day, I believe, he worked sometimes for a neighboring farmer, because he often went forth and did not return until dinner, yet brought no wood with him. At other times he worked in the garden, but as there was little to do in the frosty season, he read to the old man and Agatha. Hi, Vapor. Welcome in. Cottagecore Monster Edition. This reading had puzzled me extremely at first, but by degrees I discovered that he uttered many of the same sounds when he read as when he talked. I conjectured, therefore, that he found on the paper signs for speech which he understood, and I ardently longed to comprehend these also. But how was that possible when I did not even understand the sounds for which they stood as signs? I improved, however, sensibly in this science, but not sufficiently to follow up any kind of conversation, although I applied my whole mind to the endeavor, for I easily perceived that, although I eagerly longed to discover myself to the cottagers, I ought not to make the attempt until I had first become master of their language, which knowledge might enable me to make them overlook the deformity of my figure, for with this also the contrast perpetually presented to my eyes had made me acquainted, there we go. I had admired the perfect forms of my cottagers, their grace, beauty, and delicate complexions, but how was I terrified when I viewed myself in a transparent pool. At first I started back, unable to believe that it was indeed I who was reflected in the mirror. And when I became fully convinced that I was in reality the monster that I am, I was filled with the bitterest sensations of despondence and mortification. Alas, I did not yet entirely know the fatal effects of this miserable deformity. As the sun became warmer and the light of day longer, the snow vanished, and I beheld the bare trees and the black earth. From this time Felix was more employed, and the heart-moving indications of impending famine disappeared. Their food, as I afterwards found, was coarse, but it was wholesome, and they procured a sufficiency of it. Several new kinds of plants sprang up in the garden, which they dressed, and these signs of comfort increased daily as the season advanced. Oh, thank you for the stretch. Oh, goodness. Ah. Oh, thank you for the head pats, MC. The old man, leaning on his son, walked each day at noon, when it did not rain, as I found it was called when the heavens poured forth its waters. This frequently took place, but a high wind quickly dried the earth, and the season became far more pleasant than it had been. My mode of life in my hovel was uniform. During the morning, I attended the motions of the cottagers, and when they were dispersed in various occupations, I slept. The remainder of the day was spent in observing my friends. When they had retired to rest, if there was any moon or the night was starlight, I went into the woods and collected my own food and fuel for the cottage. When I returned, as often as it was necessary, I cleared their path from the snow and performed those offices that I had seen done by Felix. I afterwards found that these labors, performed by an invisible hand, greatly astonished them. And once or twice I heard them, on these occasions, utter the words, "Good spirit," "wonderful." But I did not then understand the signification of these terms. Excuse me. Is it weird I felt like I could feel the pain of what my brother... Aww. Yeah, it's story time, Kamui. Yes, yes. Get comfy, and hopefully get sleep. Yeah. My thoughts now became more active, and I longed to discover the motives and feelings of these lovely creatures. I was inquisitive to know why Felix appeared so miserable, and Agatha so sad. I thought, foolish wretch, that it might be in my power to restore happiness to these deserving people. When I slept or was absent, the forms of the venerable blind father, gentle Agatha, and the excellent Felix flitted before me. I looked upon them as superior beings who would be the arbiters of my future destiny. I formed in my imagination 1,000 pictures of presenting myself to them and their reception of me. I imagined that they would be disgusted until, by my gentle demeanor and conciliating words, I should first win their favor and, afterwards, their love. Aww. These thoughts exhilarated me and led me to apply with fresh ardor to the acquiring the art of language. My organs were indeed harsh, but supple, and although my voice was very unlike the soft music of their tones, yet I pronounced such words as I understood with tolerable ease. It was as the ass and the lapdog, yet surely the gentle ass whose intentions were affectionate, although his manners were rude, deserved better treatment than blows and execration. I know, the monster's just, the creature, as he calls him, since he didn't even give him a name. My feasting night. Okay. The pleasant showers and genial warmth of spring greatly altered the aspect of the earth. Men who before this change seemed to have been hidden caves dispersed themselves and were employed in various arts of cultivation. The birds sang in more cheerful notes, and the leaves began to bud forth on the trees. Happy, happy earth, fit habitation for gods, which, so short a time before, was bleak, damp, and unwholesome. My spirits were elevated by the enchanting appearance of nature. The past was blotted from my memory, the present was tranquil, and the future gilded by bright rays of hope and anticipations of joy. I'm afraid to read on. I know, like, especially how that's set up, the future gilded by bright rays of hope and anticipations of joy. Like, that's, yeah. Evening Hidden. Welcome in. Chapter 13. Yes, I do need to hydrate. Thank you, Empty. Nothing can go wrong here. Mm-mm. I don't believe that for a second. Chapter 13. I now hasten to the more moving part of my story. I shall relate events that impressed me with feelings which, from what I had been, have made me what I am. Oh God. See? Okay. Spring advanced rapidly. The weather became fine and the skies cloudless. It surprised me that what before was desert and gloomy should now bloom with the most beautiful flowers and verdure. My senses were gratified and refreshed by 1,000 scents of delight and 1,000 sights of beauty. It was on one of these days, when my cottagers periodically rested from labor, the old man played on his guitar, and the children listened to him, that I observed the countenance of Felix was melancholy beyond expression. He sighed frequently, and once his father paused in his music, and I conjectured by his manner that he inquired the cause of his son's sorrow. Felix replied in a cheerful accent, and the old man was recommencing his music when someone tapped at the door. It was a lady on horseback, accompanied by a countryman as a guide. The lady was dressed in a dark suit and covered with a thick black veil. Agatha asked a question, to which the stranger only replied by pronouncing, in a sweet accent, the name of Felix. Her voice was musical, but unlike that of either of my friends. On hearing this word, Felix came up hastily to the lady, who, when she saw him, threw up her veil, and I beheld a countenance of angelic beauty and expression. Her hair of a shining raven black, and curiously braided. Her eyes were dark, but gentle, although animated. Her features of a regular proportion, and her complexion wondrously fair, each cheek tinged with a lovely pink. I was shrimping. Oops. The Agatha? Night-night buns. Yeah, that's all I think of now when I hear the word or the name Agatha is Agatha all along. Felix seemed ravished with delight when he saw her. Every trait of sorrow vanished from his face, and it instantly expressed a degree of ecstatic joy. of which I could hardly have believed it capable. His eyes sparkled as his cheek flushed with pleasure, and at that moment I thought him as beautiful as a stranger. She appeared affected by different feelings, wiping a few tears from her lovely eyes. She held out her hand to Felix, who kissed it rapturously and called her, as well as I could distinguish, his sweet Arabian. She did not appear to understand him, but smiled. He assisted her to dismount and, dismissing her guide, conducted her into the cottage. Some conversation took place between him and his father, and the young stranger knelt at the old man's feet and would have kissed his hand, but he raised her and embraced her affectionately. Aww. Thank you for the stretch. Guten Nacht. I soon perceived that although the stranger uttered articulate sounds and appeared to have a language of her own, she was neither understood by nor herself understood the cottagers. They made many signs which I did not comprehend, but I saw that her presence diffused gladness through the cottage, dispelling their sorrow as the sun dissipates in the morning mists. Felix seemed peculiarly happy and with smiles of delight welcomed his Arabian. Agatha, the ever gentle Agatha, kissed the hands of the lovely stranger, and pointing to her brother, made signs which appeared to me to mean that he had been sorrowful until she came. Some hours passed thus, while they, by their countenances, expressed joy, the cause of which I did not comprehend. Presently I found, by the frequent recurrence of some sound which the stranger repeated after them, that she was endeavoring to learn their language, and the idea instantly occurred to me that I should make use of the same instructions to the same end. The stranger learned about 20 words at the first lesson. Most of them, indeed, were those which I had before understood, but I profited by the others. That was a cute yawn. I yawn a lot. As night came on, Agatha and their Arabian retired early. When they separated, Felix kissed the hand of the stranger and said, "Good night, sweet Safie." He sat up much longer, conversing with his father, and by the frequent repetition of her name, I conjectured that their lovely guest was the subject of their conversation. I ardently desired to understand them, and bent every faculty towards that purpose, but found it utterly impossible. The next morning, Felix went out to his work, and after the usual occupations of Agatha were finished, the Arabian sat at the feet of the old man, and taking his guitar, played some airs so entrancingly beautiful that they at once drew tears of sorrow and delight from my eyes. She sang, and her voice flowed in a rich cadence, swelling or dying away like a nightingale of the woods. When she had finished, she gave the guitar to Agatha, who at first declined it. She played a simple air, and her voice accompanied it in sweet accents, but unlike the wondrous strain of the stranger. The old man appeared enraptured and said some words which Agatha endeavored to explain to Safie, and by which he appeared to wish to express that she bestowed on him the greatest delight by her music. The days now passed as peaceably as before, with the sole alteration that joy had taken place of sadness in the countenances of my friends. Safie was always gay and happy. She and I improved rapidly in the knowledge of language, so that in 2 months I began to comprehend most of the words uttered by my protectors. In the meanwhile, also, the black ground was covered with herbage, and the green banks interspersed with innumerable flowers, sweet to the scent and the eyes, stars of pale radiance among the moonlight woods. The sun became warmer, the nights clear and balmy, and the nocturnal rambles, and my nocturnal, I swear to God, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and my nocturnal rambles were an extreme pleasure to me, although they were considerably shortened by the late setting and early rising of the sun, for I never ventured abroad during daylight, fearful of meeting with the same treatment I had formerly endured in the first village which I entered. My days were spent in close attention, that I might more speedily master the language, and I may boast that I improved more rapidly than the Arabian, who understood very little and conversed in broken accents, whilst I comprehended and could imitate almost every word that was spoken. Balkanian, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Oh, goodness. While I improved in speech, I also learned the science of letters as it was taught to the stranger, and this opened before me a wide field for wonder and delight. The book from which Felix instructed Safie was Volney's Ruins of Empires. I should not have understood the purport of this book had not Felix, in reading it, given very minute explanations. He had chosen this work, he said, because the declamatory style was framed in imitation of the Eastern authors. Through this work I obtained a cursory knowledge of history and a view of the several empires at present existing in the world. It gave me an insight into the manners, governments, and religions of the different nations of the earth. I heard of the slothful Asiatics, of the stupendous genius and mental activity of the Grecians, of the wars and wonderful virtue of the early Romans, of their subsequent degenerating, of the decline of that mighty empire of chivalry, Christianity, and kings. I heard of the discovery of the American hemisphere and wept with Safie over the hapless fate of its original inhabitants. These wonderful narrations inspired me with strange feelings. Was man indeed at once so powerful, so virtuous and magnificent, yet so vicious and base? He appeared at one time a mere scion of the evil principle, and at another as all that can be conceived of noble and godlike. To be a great and virtuous man appeared the highest honor that can befall a sensitive being. To be base and vicious, as many on record have been, appeared the lowest degradation, a condition more abject than that of the blind mole or harmless worm. For a long time I could not conceive how one man could go forth to murder his fellow, or even why there were laws and governments. But when I heard details of vice and bloodshed, my wonder ceased, and I turned away with disgust and loathing. Rocky Mister, I don't know. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Oh. Ooh, neck pop. Every conversation of the cottagers now opened new wonders to me. While I listened to the instructions which Felix bestowed upon the Arabian, the strange system of human society was explained to me. I heard of the division of property, of immense wealth and squalid poverty, of rank, descent, and noble blood. The words induced me to turn towards myself. I learned that the possessions most esteemed by your fellow creatures were high and unsullied descent united with riches. A man might be respected with only one of these advantages, but without either he was considered, except in very rare instances, as a vagabond and a slave, doomed to waste his powers for the profits of the chosen few. And what was I? Of my creation and creator, I was absolutely ignorant, but I knew that I possessed no money, no friends, no kind of property. I was, besides, endued with a figure hideously deformed and loathsome. I was not even of the same nature as man. I was more agile than they and could subsist upon coarser diet. I bore the extremes of heat and cold with less injury to my frame. My stature far exceeded theirs. When I looked around, I saw and heard of none like me. Was I then a monster, a blot upon the earth, from which all men fled and whom all men disowned? I cannot describe to you the agony that these reflections inflicted upon me. I tried to dispel them, but sorrow only increased with knowledge. Oh, that I had forever remained in my native wood, nor known nor felt beyond the sensations of hunger, thirst, and heat. Oh, night-night, Jones. Thank you for popping in. Of what a strange nature is knowledge. It clings to the mind when it has once seized on it like a lichen on the rock. I wished sometimes to shake off all thought and feeling, but I learned that there was but one means to overcome the sensation of pain, and that was death, a state which I feared yet did not understand. I admired virtue and good feelings, and loved the gentle manners and amiable qualities of my cottagers, but I was shut out from intercourse with them, except through means which I obtained by stealth, when I was unseen and unknown, and which rather increased than satisfied the desire I had of becoming one among my fellows. The gentle words of Agatha and the animated smiles of the charming Arabian were not for me. The mild exhortations of the old man and the lively conversation of the loved Felix were not for me. Miserable, unhappy wretch. Other lessons were impressed upon me even more deeply. I heard of the differences of sexes and the birth and growth of children, how the father doted on the smiles of the infant and the lively sallies of the older child, how all the life and cares of the mother were wrapped up in the precious charge, how the mind of youth expanded and gained knowledge of brother, sister, and all the various relationships which bind one human being to another in mutual bonds. But where were my friends and relations? No father had watched my infant days. No mother had blessed me with smiles and caresses. Or if they had, all my past life was now a blot, a blind vacancy in which I distinguished nothing. From my earliest remembrances, I had been as I then was in height and proportion. I had never yet seen a being resembling me or who claimed any intercourse with me. What was I? The question again recurred, to be answered only with groans. I will soon explain to what these feelings tended, but allow me now to return to the cottagers, whose story excited in me such various feelings of indignation, delight, and wonder, but which all terminated in additional love and reverence for my protectors. For so I loved, in an innocent, half painful self-deceit, to call them. How could he see Aga? He's so small. Chapter 14. Some time elapsed before I learned the history of my friends. It was one which could not fail to impress itself deeply on my mind, unfolding as it did a number of circumstances, each interesting and wonderful to one so utterly inexperienced as I was. JP Star, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. How are we feeling about the monster? I feel sad about the monster. I feel really sad about him, honestly. It's not his fault. He wasn't created, and what a... Sorry, I need to put some chapstick on and take a moment to breathe. Yeah, and hydrate. Excuse me. And apparently burp tea. You're welcome. I know, he just wants friends. He just wants companionship. He just wants to be accepted. It's sad. It's really sad. And to hear him call himself, you know, things like wretch and, you know, basically undeserving of any kind of love and stuff, like, ugh, it's rough. Kind of like a carrot looking for a place for ERP. Okay. Okay. Personally, I would fluff that monster, honestly, same. The name of the old man was D. Lacey. He was descended from a good family in France, where he had lived for many years in affluence, respected by his superiors and beloved by his equals. His son was bred in the service of his country, and Agatha had ranked with ladies of the highest distinction. A few months before my arrival, they had lived in a large and luxurious city called Paris, surrounded by friends and possessed of every enjoyment which virtue, refinement of intellect, or taste, accompanied by a moderate fortune, could afford. Someone fluff him now? On it. Oh, on it sent me. The father of Saifi had been the cause of their ruin. He was a Turkish merchant and had inhabited Paris for many years when, for some reason which I could not learn, he became obnoxious to the government. He was seized and cast into prison the very day... Oh, geez. Oh, Spazzy. Spazzy, thank you for the gifted. Thank you so much. That was really sweet. Pretty sure there's enough monster to be fluffed all around. Thank you so much, Spazzy. You sent us right into a bloody hype train, Lord. You have to thank me for that. You don't have to thank for that. I'm happy to help when people are bringing kitties into their lives. More than happy to help for that. He was seized and cast into prison the very day that Saifi arrived from Constantinople to join him. He was tried and condemned to death. The injustice of his sentence was very flagrant. All Paris was indignant, and it was judged that his religion and wealth, rather than the crime alleged against him, had been the cause of his condemnation. That's unfortunate. Felix had accidentally been present at the trial. His horror and indignation were uncontrollable when he heard the decision of the court. He made at that moment a solemn vow to deliver him and then looked around for the means. After many fruitless attempts to gain admittance to the prison, he found a strongly grated window in an unguarded part of the building, which lighted the dungeon of the unfortunate Muhammad. Oh my God. Send help. Mohammedan, who, loaded with chains, awaited in despair the execution of the barbarous sentence. Felix visited the grate at night and made known to the prisoner his intentions in his favor. The Turk, amazed and delighted, endeavored to kindle the zeal of his deliverer by promises of reward and wealth. Felix rejected his offers with contempt, yet when he saw the lovely Saifi, who was allowed to visit her father and who, by her gestures, expressed her lively gratitude, the youth could not help owning to his own mind that the captive possessed a treasure which would fully reward his toil and hazard. A fun extreme, honestly. honestly. I've got head pats and monster fluffers. It's the best I can do for help. That's plenty of help. Okay. What? I don't even know what kind of redeem that would be. Just a soundbite, a monster fluffer soundbite. I don't know. Lelouch. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I hope you're doing good. The Turk quickly perceived the impression that his daughter had made on the heart of Felix, and endeavored to secure him more entirely in his interests by the promise of her hand in marriage, so soon as he should be conveyed to a place of safety. Felix was too delicate to accept this offer, yet he looked forward to the probability of the event, as to the consummation of his happiness. During the ensuing days, while the preparations were going forward for the escape of the merchant, the zeal of Felix was warmed by several letters that he received from this lovely girl, who found means to express her thoughts in the language of her lover by the aid of an old man, a servant of her father who understood French. She thanked him in the most ardent terms for his intended services towards her parent, and at the same time she gently deplored her own fate. Wait, what? Goom, thank you for the sub. Thank you, guys. This is so sweet. It's very sweet. It's very, very sweet. Wait, what? Oh my goodness. Why? Thank you for the subs. Yeah, that's really sweet. Why not? Level 3 hype train? Oh my goodness. We're just reading. Why? Oh, We gotta adjust though. We gotta stretch a little. We gotta. Oh, it's still, it's still very warm in this room. No, thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. Me. I finally have the fun emotes. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Mm. No, yeah. Aw, cool ball. Thank you for the biddies. I appreciate the community and soft voice. I love my community. I do. Hey, Banshee, is there a story to this stream? Hi, Solid. Mary Shelley would be happy to know you're farming some syrup. As long as the queen would be happy with that. Jagoba, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. No, you, Shadow. Oh, goodness. Oh, the stretch. The creature would be happy his life amounted to something. See, you just being here is all that I ask. Is it not that I ask? Is it makes me more than happy. Please, please. Money to yourself first. Always, always. The creature would be happy his life amounted to something. Maybe the monster is the subs we gave along the way. Also, I think you get a kick out of this. I was threatened twice in 2 different streams today for making puns. Threatened to get banned. Yeah, I figured. I figured. Only if you can, your presence is already. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't think I can fluff that monster though. Can you creak open the window sometimes so daylight can get into the basement? It's hard to watch your streams like that, Banshee. No. Hands move faster than the hands, yeah. Nom 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 nom. Alright. I popped a lozenge, but I can't read with the lozenge in my mouth. Okay. Oh, okay. I thought the tracking died. What? Why would you want sunlight? Oh, when I like stared. Yeah, I got you. I mean, you need sunlight sometimes. You do want it sometimes. When you went straight faced, yeah. That's not a link. Okay. I have copies of these letters, for I found means, during my residence in the hovel, to procure the implements of writing. And the letters were often in the hands of Felix or Agatha. Before I depart, I will give them to you. They will prove the truth of my tale, but at present, as the sun is already far declined, I shall only have time to repeat the substance of them to you. Saifi related that her mother was a Christian Arab, seized and made a slave by the Turks. Recommended by her beauty, she had won the heart of the father of Saifi, who married her. The young girl spoke in high and enthusiastic terms of her mother, who, born in freedom, spurned the bondage to which she was now reduced. She instructed her daughter in the tenets of her religion and taught her to aspire to higher powers of intellect and an independence of spirit forbidden to the female followers of Muhammad. This lady died, but her lessons were indelibly impressed on the mind of Saifi, who sickened at the prospect of again returning to Asia and being immured within the walls of a harem, allowed only... Hold on. No, this song's fine. Okay. Allowed only to occupy herself with infantile amusements, ill-suited to the temper of her soul, now accustomed to grand ideas and a noble emulation for virtue. The prospect of marrying a Christian and remaining in a country where women were allowed to take a rank in society was enchanting to her. Oh, that's cute. I'm in a jar. You ain't a monster, you a mother. What's up, raccoon? Oh, I wonder, can I not be a clown while... Oh, there it is. Yeah, they're timed. Okay. The day for the execution of the Turk was fixed, but on the night previous to it, he quitted his prison and before morning was distant many leagues from Paris. Felix had procured passports in the name of his father, sister, and himself. He had previously communicated his plan to the former, who aided the deceit by quitting his house under the pretense of a journey and concealed himself with his daughter in an obscure part of Paris. A jar clown, yeah. I guess not. Oopsie. Felix conducted the fugitives through France to Lyons and across Mont Cenis to Leghorn, where the merchant had decided to wait a favorable opportunity of passing into some part of the Turkish dominions. Can't be a clown in a jar, but could Dreamy be a clown while Banshee is in a jar? That'd be kind of cute. I'm sorry enough. I'm as sorry as I can get right now. Safie resolved to remain with her father until the moment of his departure, before which time the Turk renewed his promise that she should be united to his deliverer, and Felix remained with them in expectation of that event. And in the meantime he enjoyed the society of the Arabian, who exhibited towards him the simplest and tenderest affection. They conversed with one another through the means of an interpreter, and sometimes with the interpretation of looks, and Safie sang to him the divine airs of her native country. The Turk allowed this intimacy to take place and encouraged the hopes of the youthful lovers, while in his heart he had formed far other plans. I kind of figured. He loathed the idea that his daughter should be united to a Christian, but he feared the resentment of Felix if he should appear lukewarm, for he knew that he was still in the power of his deliverer if he should choose to betray him to the Italian state which they inhabited. He revolved 1,000 plans by which he should be enabled to prolong the deceit until it might be no longer necessary, and secretly to take his daughter with him when he departed. His plans were facilitated by the news which arrived from Paris. Mini-Singe, thank you for the follow. I hope you're doing good. The government of France were greatly enraged at the escape of their victim and spared no pains to detect and punish his deliverer. The plot of Felix was quickly discovered, and De Lacy and Agatha were thrown into prison. The news reached Felix and roused him from his dream of pleasure. His blind and aged father and his gentle sister lay in a noisome dungeon, while he enjoyed the free air and the society of her whom he loved. This idea was torture to him. Oh, itchy. Okay, sorry. This idea was torture to him. He quickly arranged with the Turk that if the latter should find a favorable opportunity for escape before Felix could return to Italy, Safie should remain as a boarder at a convent at Leghorn, and then, quitting the lovely Arabian, he hastened to Paris and delivered himself up to the vengeance of the law, hoping to free De Lacy and Agatha by his proceeding. Lokido, thank you for the follow. I hope you're doing good. He did not succeed. They remained confined for 5 months before the trial took place, the result of which deprived them of their fortune and condemned them to a perpetual exile from their native country. They found a miserable asylum in the cottage in Germany, where I discovered them. Felix soon learned that the treacherous Turk, for whom he and his family endured such unheard of oppression, on discovering that his deliverer was thus reduced to poverty and ruin, became a traitor to good feeling and honor and had quitted Italy with his daughter, insultingly sending Felix a pittance of money to aid him, as he said, in some plan of future maintenance. Oof. Why you bonk me, huh? This is live, Alpha. Yeah. Such were the events that preyed on the heart of Felix and rendered him, when I first saw him, the most miserable of his family. He could have endured poverty, and while this distress had been the meed of his virtue, he gloried in it. But the ingratitude of the Turk and the loss of his beloved Safie were misfortunes more bitter and irreparable. The arrival of the Arabian now infused new life into his soul. As live as a ghost reading stream can be, yeah. Imagine, Spazzy, imagine. I do call you guys stinky. Sometimes you guys are stinky. I can't help it. That's not my fault. There's no throw redeem right now. Need to fix up the bugs of the OBS crashing. It's not rude. It's not rude. It's me making sure. I'm just making sure that you're bathing yourselves. Hello. That's sorry. When the news reached Leghorn that Felix was deprived of his wealth and rank, the merchant commanded his daughter to think no more of her lover, but to prepare to return to her native country. The generous nature of Safie was outraged by this command. She attempted to expostulate with her father, but he left her angrily, reiterating his tyrannical mandate. A few days after, the Turk entered his daughter's apartment and told her hastily that he had reason to believe that his residence at Leghorn had been divulged and that he should speedily be delivered up to the French government. He had consequently hired a vessel to convey him to Constantinople, for which city he should sail in a few hours. He intended to leave his daughter under the care of a confidential servant, to follow at her leisure with the greater part of his property, which had not yet arrived at Leghorn. When alone, Safie resolved in her own mind the plan of conduct that it would become her to pursue in this emergency. A residence in Turkey was abhorrent to her. Her religion and her feelings were alike averse to it. By some papers of her father which fell into her hands, she heard of the exile of her lover and learnt the name of the spot where he then resided. She hesitated some time, but at length she formed her determination Taking with her some jewels that belonged to her and a sum of money, she quitted Italy with an attendant, a native of Leghorn, but who understood the common language of Turkey, and departed for Germany. I left for a second, came back to the bathing discussion. What in the world? What in the world? I'll probably clean after a much needed shower because I fell into a pond. You fell into a pond this evening? Oh my goodness, are you okay? I'm proud of you for cleaning yourself. Hi, Carrot. Yeah. How did you fall into a pond? Stocking it with a little over 1,000 fingerling fish. An albino catfish. Oh my goodness. Can we have footage evidence? Okay. She arrived in safety at a town about 20 leagues from the cottage of De Lacy when her attendant fell dangerously ill. Safie nursed her with the most devoted affection, but the poor girl died, and the Arabian was left alone, unacquainted with the language of the country and utterly ignorant of the customs of the world. She fell, however, into good hands. The Italian had mentioned the name of the spot for which they were bound, and after her death, the woman of the house in which they had lived took care that Safie should arrive in safety at the cottage of her lover. Oh. Chapter 15. So like a man made a deal. Mushroom Kingdom. Aggie. Hi, Aggie. Oh. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. I'm excited. We're really getting into this. I'm really getting into this. Alright. Yeah, we actually are. We actually are. Excuse me. Because remember, we have 24 in total. So, yeah. Yeah. I totally didn't wake up and hop into stream with the hopes to fall right back asleep. I hope so. I hope so. Such was the history of my beloved cottagers. It impressed me deeply. I learned, from the views of social life which it developed, to admire their virtues and to deprecate the vices of mankind. As yet I looked upon crime as a distant evil. Benevolence and generosity were ever present before me, inciting within me a desire to become an actor in the busy scene where so many admirable qualities were called forth and displayed. But in giving an account of the progress of my intellect, I must not omit a circumstance which occurred in the beginning of the month of August of the same year. Gesundheit. It's a pond behind my house. Border is mostly clay and the water is about, excuse me. Just trying to choke on my tea. A foot down from the lack of rain from the past 2 months. I was below the regular watering the bucket of fish in the water so they could acclimate, so the clay gave away. Oh no, the clay gave way under me and I fell on my butt as my legs went down into the pond. Had to push, oh god, swim up my pants leg and had to crawl out of the pond on my knees. Oh, I'm so sorry. That sounds awful. Mm. That sounds hilarious visually, but that sounds awful. Okay. Did you squish any of the fish in the oh god. Fishy, please. Yeah, sitcom shit, literally. Okay, okay, okay. As yet I looked upon crime as a distant evil. Benevolence and generosity were ever present before me, inciting within me a desire to become an actor in the busy scene where so many admirable qualities were called forth and displayed. But in giving an account of the progress of my intellect, I must not omit a circumstance which occurred in the beginning of the month of August of the same year. One night during my accustomed visit to the neighboring wood where I collected my own food and brought home firing for my protectors, I found on the ground a leathern portmanteau containing several articles of dress and some books. I eagerly seized the prize and returned with it to my hovel. Fortunately, the books were written in the language, the elements of which I had acquired at the cottage. They consisted of Paradise Lost, a volume of Plutarch's Lives, and the Sorrows of Werther. The possession of these treasures gave me extreme delight. I now continually studied and exercised my mind upon these histories, whilst my friends were employed in their ordinary occupations. I can hardly describe to you the effect of these books. They produced in me an infinity of new images and feelings that sometimes raised me to ecstasy, but more frequently sunk me into the lowest dejection. In the Sorrows of Werther, besides the interest of its simple and affecting story, so many opinions are canvassed and so many lights thrown upon what had hitherto been to me obscure subjects that I found in it a never-ending source of speculation and astonishment. The gentle and domestic manners it described, combined with lofty sentiments and feelings, which had for their object something out of self, accorded well with my experience among my protectors and with the ones which were forever alive in my own bosom. But I thought Werther himself a more divine being than I had ever beheld or imagined. His character contained no pretension, but it sank deep. The disquisitions upon death and suicide were calculated to fill me with wonder. I did not pretend to enter into the merits of the case, yet I inclined towards the opinions of the hero, whose extinction I wept, without precisely understanding it. The monster reading Paradise Lost is just daddy issues on daddy issues. Yeah, Coon's real. What? Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry. I need to mute for just a second so I can blow my nose again. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, what now? I would say something to him, no Isn't it so cute when people say like no offense, whether it's before or after a statement? Isn't it cute when you hear that and then it's like it's always like either followed or preceded by something offensive? Isn't it adorable? Yeah, I think it's really cute. I think it's really cute. I need Banshee's stream, no offense. Literally none taken. Okay. As I read, however, I applied much personally to my own feelings and conditions. Yeah, yeah. I I'm gonna get back to my story. I found myself similar, yet at the same time strangely unlike to the beings concerning whom I read and to whose conversation I was a listener. I sympathized with and partly understood them, but I was unformed in mind. I was dependent on none and related to none. The path of my departure was free, and there was none to lament my annihilation. My person was hideous, and my stature gigantic. What did this mean? Who was I? What was I? Whence did I come? What was my destination? These questions continually recurred, but I was unable to solve them. And Dunny, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow. I hope you're doing good. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Oh, and thank you for the stretch. Mm. Plaga Gorda, thank you for the follow. I hope you're doing good too. And thank you for the hydrate. Sippy zip. Yeah, Alpha, like, you're getting a timeout. You're getting a timeout if you don't stop. And the timeout is the one warning. So, like, chill out. I have mods. Come on. We're reading. We're reading a really good story. Okay. Oh my god. Oh, the pop. The neck pop. Oh my god. The volume of Plutarch's Lives, which I possessed, contained the histories of the first founders of the ancient republics. This book had a far different effect upon me from the sorrows of Werter. I learned from Werter's imaginations despondency and gloom, but Plutarch taught me high thoughts. He elevated me above the wretched sphere of my own reflections, to admire and love the heroes of past ages. Many things I read surpassed my understanding and experience. I had a very confused knowledge of kingdoms, wide extents of country, mighty rivers, and boundless seas, but I was perfectly unacquainted with towns and large assemblages of men. The cottage of my protectors had been the only school in which I had studied human nature, but this book developed new and mightier scenes of action. I read of men concerned in public affairs, governing or massacring their species. I felt the greatest ardor for virtue rise within me, an abhorrence for vice, as far as I understood the signification of those terms, relative as they were, as I applied them to pleasure and pain alone. Induced by these feelings, I was, of course, led to admire peaceable lawgivers, Numa, Solon, and Lycurgus, in preference to Romulus and Theseus. Theseus? I think it's Theseus. But the patriarchal lives of my protectors caused these impressions to take a firm hold on my mind. Perhaps if my first introduction to humanity had been made by a young soldier burning for glory and slaughter, I should have imbued with different sensations. Just a golden retriever with a brain. Someone hug him. That's wild. But Paradise Lost excited different and far deeper emotions. I read it, as I had read the other volumes which had fallen into my hands, as a true history. It moved every feeling of wonder and awe that the picture of an omnipotent God warring with his creatures was capable of exciting. I often... This fucking clown music. Stop, please. Okay. I often referred the several situations, as their similarity struck me, to my own. Like Adam, I was apparently united by no link to any other being in existence. But his state was far different from mine in every other respect. He had come forth from the hands of God, a perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guarded by the especial care of his Creator. He was allowed to converse with and acquire knowledge from beings of a superior nature, but I was wretched, helpless, and alone. Many times I considered Satan as the fitter emblem of my condition, for often, like him, when I viewed the bliss of my protectors, the bitter gall of envy rose within me. These books just fall into my hands and read themselves away. Listening to Banshee read is kind of a meta commentary on this comment. I realized how alone in the universe I was. Meanwhile, step right up and see Bobs of the Clown. Have a good night, Solid. Thank you for popping in. Another circumstance strengthened and confirmed these feelings. Soon after my arrival in the hovel, I discovered some papers in the pocket of the dress which I had taken from your laboratory. At first I had neglected them, but now that I was able to decipher the characters in which they were written, I began to study them with diligence. It was your journal of the 4 months that preceded my creation. You minutely described in these papers every step you took in the progress of your work. This history was mingled with accounts of domestic occurrences. You doubtless recollect these papers. Here they are. Everything is related in them, which bears reference to my accursed origin. The whole detail of that series of disgusting circumstances which produced it is set in view. The minutest description of my odious and loathsome person is given, in language which painted your own horrors and rendered mine indelible. I sickened as I read. Hateful day when I received life, I exclaimed in agony. Accursed Creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God, in pity, made man beautiful and alluring after his own image. But my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred. These were the reflections of my hours of despondency and solitude. But when I contemplated the virtues of the cottagers, their amiable and benevolent dispositions, I persuaded myself that when they should become acquainted with my admiration of their virtues, they would compassionate me and overlook my personal deformity. Could they turn from their door one, however monstrous, who solicited their compassion and friendship? I resolved at least not to despair, but in every way to in every way to fit myself for an interview with them, which would decide my fate. I postponed this attempt for some months longer, for the importance attached to its success inspired with me a dread lest I should fail. Besides, I found that my understanding improved so much with every day's experience that I was unwilling to commence this undertaking until a few more months should have added to my sagacity. Several changes in the meantime took place in the cottage. The presence of safety diffused happiness among its inhabitants, and I also found that a greater degree of plenty reigned there. Felix and Agatha spent more time in amusement and conversation, and were assisted in their labors by servants. They did not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. Their feelings were serene and peaceful, while mine became every day more tumultuous. Increase of knowledge only discovered to me more clearly what a wretched outcast I was. I cherished hope, it is true, but it vanished when I beheld my person reflected in water, or my shadow in the moonshine, even as that frail image in that inconstant shade. Oh, yeah. I said Agatha. I endeavored to crush these fears and to fortify myself for the trial which in a few months I resolved to undergo. And sometimes I allowed my thoughts, unchecked by reason, to ramble in the fields of paradise, and dared to fancy amiable and lovely creatures sympathizing with my feelings and cheering my gloom. Their angelic countenances breathed smiles of consolation. But it was all a dream. No Eve soothed my sorrows nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his creator. But where was mine? He had abandoned me, and in the bitterness of my heart, I cursed him. What? Autumn paused thus. I saw, with surprise and grief, the leaves decay and fall, and nature again assumed the barren and bleak appearance it had worn when I first beheld the woods and the lovely moon. Yet I did not heed the bleakness of the weather. I was better fitted by my conformation for the endurance of cold than heat. But my chief delights were the sight of the flowers, the birds, and all the gay apparel of summer. When those deserted me, I turned with more attention towards the cottagers. Their happiness was not decreased by the absence of summer. They loved and sympathized with one another, and their joys, depending on each other, were not interrupted by the casualties that took place around them. The more I saw of them, the greater became my desire to claim their protection and kindness. My heart yearned to be known and loved by these amiable creatures. To see their sweet looks directed towards me with affection was the utmost limit of my ambition. I dared not think that they would turn them from me with disdain and horror. The poor that stopped at their door were never driven away. I asked, it is true, for greater treasures than a little food or rest. I required kindness and sympathy. but I did not believe myself utterly unworthy of it. Without the E, it just looks like Carrot is trying to cut Aga. The monsters who the werewolf posters think they are. Yeah, that is pretty normal Carrot behavior. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the stretch. Ah. The winter advanced, and an entire revolution of the seasons had taken place since I awoke into life. My attention at this time was solely directed towards my plan of introducing myself into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved many projects, but that on which I finally fixed was to enter the dwelling when the blind old man should be alone. I had sagacity enough to discover that the unnatural hideousness of my person was the chief object of horror with those who had formerly beheld me. My voice, although harsh, had nothing terrible in it. I thought, therefore, that if in the absence of his children I could gain the goodwill and mediation of the old de Lacy, I might by his means be tolerated by my younger protectors. One day, when the sun shone on the red leaves that strewed the ground and diffused cheerfulness, although it denied warmth, Safie, Agatha, and Felix departed on a long country walk, and the old man, at his own desire, was left alone in the cottage. When his children had departed, he took up his guitar and played several mournful but sweet airs, more sweet and mournful than I had ever heard him play before. At first his countenance was illuminated with pleasure, but as he continued, thoughtfulness and sadness succeeded. At length, laying aside the instrument, he sat absorbed in reflection. You just like me for... Aga, please. If you know normal Carrot behavior, you wouldn't like me. Oopsie. My heart beat quick. This was the hour and moment of trial, which would decide my hopes or realize my fears. The servants were gone to a neighboring fair. All was silent in and around the cottage. It was an excellent opportunity, yet, when I proceeded to execute my plan, my limbs failed me and I sank to the ground. Again I rose, and, exerting all the firmness of which I was master, removed the planks which I had placed before my hovel to conceal my retreat. The fresh air revived me, and with renewed determination I approached the door of their cottage. I knocked. "Who is there?" said the old man. "Come in." I entered. "Pardon this intrusion," said I. "I am a traveler in want of a little rest. You would greatly oblige me if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire." "Enter," said de Lacy, "and I will try in what manner I can to relieve your wants. But unfortunately, my children are from home, and as I am blind, I am afraid I shall find it difficult to procure food for you." "Do not trouble yourself, my kind host. I have food. It is warmth and rest only that I need." I sat down and a silence ensued. I knew that every minute was precious to me, yet I remained irresolute in what manner to commence the interview, when the old man addressed me. "By your language, stranger, I suppose you are my countryman. Are you French?" "No, but I was educated by a French family and understand that language only. I am now going to claim the protection of some friends whom I sincerely love, and of whose favor I have some hopes." Are they Germans? No, they are French. But let us change the subject. I am an unfortunate and deserted creature. I look around and I have no relation or friend upon earth. These amiable people to whom I go have never seen me and know little of me. I am full of fears, for if I fail there, I am an outcast in the world forever. How can you call a German a French? Do not despair. To be friendless is indeed to be unfortunate, but the hearts of men, when unprejudiced by any obvious self-interest, are full of brotherly love and charity. Rely, therefore, on your hopes, and if these friends are good and amiable, do not despair. They are kind. They are the most excellent creatures in the world, but unfortunately, they are prejudiced against me. I have good dispositions. My life has been hitherto harmless and in some degree beneficial, but a fatal prejudice clouds their eyes. And where they ought to see a feeling and kind friend, they behold only a detestable monster. That is indeed unfortunate, but if you are really blameless, cannot you deceive them? Or cannot you undeceive them? I am about to undertake that task, and it is on that account that I feel so many overwhelming terrors. I tenderly love these friends. I have, unknown to them, been for many months in the habits of daily kindness towards them. But they believe that I wish to injure them, and it is that prejudice which I wish to overcome. Where do these friends reside? Near the spot. Marriage stream, what is happening? The old man paused and then continued. If you will unreservedly confide to me the particulars of your tale, I perhaps may be of use in undeceiving them. I am blind and cannot judge of your countenance, but there is something in your words which persuades me that you are sincere. I am poor and an exile, but it will afford me true pleasure to be in any way serviceable to a human creature. Excellent man. I thank you and accept your generous offer. You raise me from the dust by this kindness, and I trust that, by your aid, I shall not be driven from the society and sympathy of your fellow creatures. Heaven forbid! Even if you were really criminal, for that can only drive you to desperation, and not instigate you to virtue. I also am unfortunate. I and my family have been condemned, although innocent. Judge, therefore, if I do not feel for your misfortunes. Yeah, I don't know, universe. I don't know. Absolutely not. No, no, no bans. No. Mm-mm. How can I thank you, my best and only benefactor? From your lips first have I heard the voice of kindness directed towards me. I shall be forever grateful. And your present humanity assures me of success with those friends whom I am on the point of meeting. May I know the names and residence of those friends? Hi, Prime. Welcome in. I paused. This, I thought, was the moment of decision, which was to rob me of or bestow happiness on me forever. I struggled vainly for firmness sufficient to answer him. but the effort destroyed all my remaining strength. I sank on the chair and sobbed aloud. At that moment, I heard the steps of my younger protectors. I had not a moment to lose, but seizing the hand of the old man, I cried, "Now is the time. Save and protect me. You and your family are the friends whom I seek. Do not you desert me in the hour of trial." Great God. It's been 5 long years. Great God, exclaimed the old man. Who are you? At that instant, the cottage doors opened, and Felix, Safi, and Agatha entered. Who can describe their horror and consternation on beholding me? Agatha fainted, and Safi, unable to attend to her friend, rushed out of the cottage. Felix started forward and, with supernatural force, tore me from his father, to whose knees I clung in a transport of fury. He dashed me to the ground and struck me violently with a stick. I could have torn him limb from limb, as the lion rends the antelope. But my heart sank within me, as with bitter sickness, and I refrained. I saw him on the point of repeating his blow when, overcome by pain and anguish, I quitted the cottage, and in the general tumult escaped unperceived to my hovel. I mean, expected, but sad. It's sad. I'm in love. Hi, Zoo. Welcome in. Miss Story, hello to my friends, gets unnerved by yellow soundbite and takes a pause. Next statement in the book, I paused. Yeah, carrots. It goes both ways. Banshee was there for... Yeah. I mean, yes, it's been 5 long years, but 5 actually very mutually helpful, mutually beneficial years of friendship. Actually, we give each other so much shit, but like you couldn't ask for a better friend, honestly. Oh my God, Aga, stop. Aga is adorable, okay? Just stop it. Just stop it. Oh, goodness. Chapter 16. Cursed creator. Why did I live? Why, in that instant, did I not extinguish the spark of existence which you had so wantonly bestowed? I know not. Despair had not yet taken possession of me. My feelings were those of rage and revenge. I could with pleasure have destroyed the cottage and its inhabitants, and have glutted myself with their shrieks and misery. When night came, I quitted my retreat and wandered in the wood, and now, no longer restrained by the fear of discovery, I gave vent to my anguish in fearful howlings. I was like a wild beast that had broken the toils, destroying the objects that obstructed me and ranging through the wood with a stag-like swiftness. Oh, what a miserable night I passed. The cold stars shone in mockery, and the bare trees waved their branches above me. Now and then the sweet voice of a bird burst forth amidst the universal stillness. All save I were at rest or in enjoyment. I, like the archfiend, bore a hell within me, and finding myself unsympathized with, wished to tear up the trees, spread havoc and destruction around me, and then to have sat down and enjoyed the ruin. But this was a luxury of sensation that could not endure. I became fatigued with excessive bodily exertion and sank on the damp grass in the sick impotence of despair. There was none among the myriads of men that existed who would pity or assist me. And should I feel kindness towards my enemies? No. From that moment, I declared everlasting war against the species, and more than all, against him who had formed me and sent me forth to this insupportable misery. Can't blame the guy. Like, honestly, you can't blame him. The sun rose. I heard the voices of men and knew that it was impossible to return to my retreat during that day. Accordingly, I hid myself in some thick underwood, determining to devote the ensuing hours to reflection on my situation. The pleasant sunshine and the pure air of day restored me to some degree of tranquility, and when I considered what had passed at the cottage, I could not help believing that I had been too hasty in my conclusions. I had certainly acted imprudently. It was apparent that my conversation had interested the father in my behalf, and I was a fool in having exposed my person to the horror of his children. I ought to have familiarized the old de Lacy to me, and by degrees to have discovered myself to the rest of his family, when they should have been prepared for my approach. But I did not believe my errors to be irretrievable, and after much consideration I resolved to return to the cottage, seek the old man, and by my representations win him to my party. Oh, this is not a good idea. This is a terrible idea. I have finished my tea. Okay, there we go. These thoughts calmed me, and in the afternoon I sank into a profound sleep. But the fever of my blood did not allow me to be visited by peaceful dreams. The horrible scene of the preceding day was forever acting before my eyes. The females were flying, and the enraged Felix tearing me from his father's feet. I awoke exhausted, and finding that it was already night, I crept forth from my hiding place and went in search of food. When my hunger was appeased, I directed my steps towards the well-known path that conducted to the cottage. All there was at peace. I crept into my hovel and remained in silent expectation of the accustomed hour when the family rose. The hour passed. The sun mounted high in the heavens, but the cottagers did not appear. I trembled violently, apprehending some dreadful misfortune. The inside of the cottage was dark, and I heard no motion. I cannot describe the agony of this suspense. Presently, 2 countrymen passed by, but pausing near the cottage, they entered into conversation, using violent gesticulations, but I did not understand what they said, as they spoke the language of the country, which differed from that of my protectors. Soon after, however, Felix approached with another man. I was surprised, as I knew that he had not quitted the cottage that morning, and waited anxiously to discover from his discourse the meaning of these unusual appearances. "Do you consider," said his companion to him, "that you will be obliged to pay 3 months' rent, and to lose the produce of your garden? I do not wish to take any unfair advantage, and I beg therefore that you will take some days to consider of your determination." "It is utterly useless," replied Felix. "We can never again inhabit your cottage. The life of my father is in the greatest danger, owing to the dreadful circumstance that I have related. My wife and my sister will never recover from their horror. I entreat you not to reason with me any more. Take possession of your tenement and let me fly from this place. Felix trembled violently as he said this. He and his companion entered the cottage, in which they remained for a few minutes, and then departed. I never saw any of the family of de Lacy more. I continued for the remainder of the day in my hovel in a state of utter and stupid despair. My protectors had departed and had broken the only link that held me to the world. For the first time, the feelings of revenge and hatred filled my bosom, and I did not strive to control them, but allowing myself to be borne away by the stream, I bent my mind towards injury and death. When I thought of my friends, of the mild voice of de Lacy, the gentle eyes of Agatha, and the exquisite beauty of the Arabian, these thoughts vanished, and a gush of tears somewhat soothed me. But again, when I reflected that they had spurned and deserted me, anger returned, a rage of anger, and unable to injure anything human, I turned my fury towards inanimate objects. As night advanced, I placed a variety of combustibles around the cottage, and after having destroyed every vestige of cultivation in the garden, I waited with forced impatience until the moon had sunk to commence my operations. Can you blame a man for dipping? Yeah, man, we saw Dad chatting up a 12-foot blue guy. We're going back to France. Yeah, not wrong. As the night advanced, a fierce wind arose from the woods and quickly dispersed the clouds that had loitered in the heavens. The blast tore along like a mighty avalanche and produced a kind of insanity in my spirits that burst all bounds of reason and reflection. I lighted the dry branch of a tree and danced with fury around the devoted cottage, my eyes still fixed on the western horizon, the edge of which the moon nearly touched. A part of its orb was at length hid. Blah, 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 blah. Was at length hid, and I waved my brand. It sank, and with a loud scream I fired the straw, and heath and bushes which I had collected. The wind fanned the fire, and the cottage was quickly enveloped by the flames, which clung to it and licked it with their forked and destroying tongues. Yeah, those alerts especially are like all of them are just turned down, so yeah. Oh, that's right, you're picking up your kitties tomorrow. Well, good luck. Good luck with your kitties. I hope everything goes well there. Oh, stretch. Thank you for the stretch. Oh my goodness. Bella Succubus, thank you for the follow. I hope you're doing good. Night Night Shadow, thank you for being here. As soon as I was convinced that no assistance could save any part of the habitation, I quitted the scene and sought for refuge in the woods. And now, with the world before me, whither should I bend my steps? Oh, Suika sister, let's go. Always happy to support my model sisters. Big same. Huge same, huge same. Should I bit my steps? I resolved to fly far from the scene of my misfortunes. But to me, hated and despised, every country must be equally horrible. At length the thought of you crossed my mind. I learned from your papers that you were my father, my creator, and to whom could I apply with more fitness than to him who had given me life? Among the lessons that Felix had bestowed upon Safie, geography had not been omitted. I had learned from these the relative situations of the different countries of the earth. You had mentioned Geneva as the name of your native town, and towards this place I resolved to proceed. Ah, good. We got a shout out there. Good, good, good. Yeah. Like you said, we gotta support our sisters. I love what she did with the model. Oh, thank you. I swear, like, and there really are a bunch of customizable models out there now. Like there really are. I don't, I, it's, I don't think any come close to Suika. Like what she's really done. You know, like just the things, all the different things that you can really do. That you can like. There's so many options. There's so many options, like it's insane. Oh, goodness. Oh, is she working on a male one? Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. It'll be amazing. Like, yeah, no question. It'll be amazing. It's so fun seeing what people can do. Yeah, it is. It is. Do I know what's amazing? You, AL. How you did your eyes and your design. The Lord, it took me a hot minute. It took me a hot minute to figure out my eyes, like, because I really wanted the glow, you know. Um, rapid. Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Aggie, you should. Oh. Oh, I could see. I could see Aggie in a male Suika. I could see it. Um. Yeah, it took a hot minute to figure out the eyes. Actually, let me click. Let me do a little clickaroony. Oh, whoops. Oh, not me outing myself right there on the thing. I was trying to follow. Yeah, but I love like the reactive eyes and stuff feature that you can add to it. Yeah. Perhaps a maid outfit for that day. Yes. Oh, prep it for the kitty Aga. Bella, yes, yes. We support the maid outfit. It's happening. Mayo is spicy. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in, welcome in. Let's see, where are we in this chapter? That'll be good. So we'll be ending on chapter this will be the last chapter that we read, I think. But what if yes? Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh no, not the lick. Oh no. All boys can be cute femboys if I bug enough. Hi, Buffy. I hate it here. You don't hate it here. Don't lie. Yes, 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 Val. Yeah. All right. You guys keep doing your little fuckery over there. I'm gonna keep reading. Yeah. We're gonna finish up with the cozy. But how was I to direct myself? I knew that I must travel in a southwesterly direction to reach my destination, but the sun was my only guide. I did not know the names of the towns that I was to pass through, nor could I ask information from a single human being. But I did not despair. From you only could I hope for succor, although towards you I felt no sentiment but that of hatred. Unfeeling, heartless creator, you had endowed me with perceptions and passions, and then cast me abroad an object for the scorn and horror of mankind. But on you only had I any claim for pity and redress, and from you I determined to seek that justice which I vainly attempted to gain from any other being that wore the human form. I mean, a little fuckery's allowed, food. What do you mean? Always time for monster fucking. Oh, fluffing, I mean. That did it. That did it. We had a good run. We had a good run. No, don't clip it. Don't clip it. Don't clip it. Frankenstein, yeah. Yeah, Frankenstein. We'll hit the Discord at 20 minutes. Oh, please. Why are you wasting your points on that rip? You know you're not gonna be able to hear it. I swear to God. Don't, no, we're not clipping, no. Oh, I'm reading my story. I'm reading my story. I swear to fucking God. Okay. My travels were long and the sufferings I endured intense. It was late in autumn when I quitted the district where I had so long resided. Please. I traveled only at night, fearful of encountering the visage of a human being. Nature decayed around me, and the sun became heartless. Rain and snow poured around me. Mighty rivers were frozen. The surface of the earth was hard and chill and bare, and I found no shelter. Oh, earth, how often did I imprecate curses on the cause of my being? The mildness of my nature had fled, and all within me was turned to gall and bitterness. The nearer I approached to your habitation, the more deeply did I feel the spirit of revenge enkindled in my heart. Snow fell, and the waters were hardened, but I rested not. A few incidents now and then directed me, and I possessed a map of the country, but I often wandered wide from my path. The agony of my feelings allowed me no respite. No incident occurred from which my rage and misery could not extract its food, but a circumstance that happened when I arrived on the confines of Switzerland, when the sun had recovered its warmth and the earth again began to look green, confirmed in an especial manner the bitterness and horror of my feelings. I generally rested during the day and traveled only when I was secured by night from the view of man. One morning, however, finding that my path lay through a deep wood, I ventured to continue my journey after the sun had risen. The day, which was one of the first of spring, cheered even me by the loveliness of its sunshine and the balminess of the air. I felt emotions of gentleness and pleasure that had long appeared dead revive within me. Half surprised by the novelty of these sensations, I allowed myself to be borne away by them, and forgetting my solitude and deformity, dared to be happy. Soft tears again bedewed my cheeks, and I even raised my humid eyes with thankfulness towards the blessed sun, which bestowed such joy upon me. I continued to wind among the paths of the wood until I came to its boundary, which was skirted by a deep and rapid river, into which many of the trees bent their branches, now budding with the fresh spring. Here I paused, not exactly knowing what path to pursue, when I heard the sound of voices that induced me to conceal myself under the shade of a cypress. I was scarcely hid when a young girl came running towards the spot where I was concealed, laughing as if she ran from someone in sport. She continued her course along the precipitous sides of the river when suddenly her foot slipped, and she fell into the rapid stream. I rushed from my hiding place and, with extreme labor, from the force of the current, saved her and dragged her to shore. She was senseless, and I endeavored by every means in my power to restore animation, when I was suddenly interrupted by the approach of a rustic. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. Approach of a rustic who was probably the person from whom she had playfully fled. On seeing me, he darted towards me, and tearing the girl from my arms, hastened towards the deeper parts of the wood. I followed speedily. I hardly knew why. But when the man saw me draw near, he aimed a gun, which he carried at my body, and fired. I sank to the ground, and my injurer, with increased swiftness, escaped into the wood. This was then the reward of my benevolence. I had saved a human being from destruction, and as a recompense I now writhed under the miserable pain of a wound which shattered the flesh and bone. The feelings of kindness and gentleness which I had entertained but a few moments before gave place to hellish rage and gnashing of teeth. Inflamed by pain, I vowed eternal hatred and vengeance to all mankind. But the agony of my wound overcame me. My pulses paused, and I fainted. For some weeks I led a miserable life in the woods, endeavoring to cure the wound which I had received. The ball had entered my shoulder, and I knew not whether it had remained there or passed through. At any rate, I had no means of extracting it. My sufferings were augmented also by the oppressive sense of the injustice and ingratitude of their infliction. My daily vows rose for revenge, a deep and deadly revenge, such as would alone compensate for the outrages and anguish I had endured. Didn't he already decide to wage war against humanity? Yeah, but it's like more salt on the wound, you know. After some weeks, my wound healed, and I continued my journey. The labors I endured were no longer to be alleviated by the bright sun or gentle breezes of spring. All joy was but a mockery which insulted my desolate state and made me feel more painfully that I was not made for the enjoyment of pleasure. But my toils now drew near a close, and in 2 months from this time I reached the environs of Geneva. It was evening when I arrived, and I retired to a hiding place among the fields that surround it to meditate in what manner I should apply to you. I was oppressed by fatigue and hunger, and far too unhappy to enjoy the gentle breezes of evening or the prospect of the sun setting behind the stupendous mountains of Jura. Time for a convention at Geneva. Salt. Yum, yum, yum. At this time, a slight sleep relieved me from the pain of reflection, which was disturbed by the approach of a beautiful child, who came running into the recess I had chosen with all the sportiveness of infancy. Suddenly, as I gazed on him, an idea seized me that this little creature was unprejudiced and had lived too short a time to have imbibed a horror of deformity. If, therefore, I could seize him and educate him as my companion and friend, I should not be so desolate in this peopled earth. Urged by this impulse, I seized on the boy as he passed and drew him towards me. As soon as he beheld my form, he placed his hands before his eyes and uttered a shrill scream. I drew his hand forcibly from his face and said, "Child, what is the meaning of this? I do not intend to hurt you. Listen to me." He struggled violently. "Let me go," he cried. "Monster, ugly wretch, you wish to eat me and tear me to pieces. You are an ogre. Let me go, or I will tell my papa." "Boy, you will never see your father again. You must come with me." "Hideous monster, let me go. My papa is a syndic. He is Frankenstein. He will punish you. You dare not keep me." "Frankenstein, you belong then to my enemy, to him towards whom I have sworn eternal revenge. You shall be my first victim." The child still struggled and loaded me with epithets which carried despair to my heart. I grasped his throat to silence him, and in a moment he lay dead at my feet. I gazed on my victim, and my heart swelled with exultation and hellish triumph. Clapping my hands, I exclaimed, "I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable. This death will carry despair to him, and 1,000 other miseries shall torment and destroy him." As I fixed my eyes on the child, I saw something glittering on his breast. I took it. It was a portrait of a most lovely woman. In spite of my malignity, it softened and attracted me. For a few moments I gazed with delight on her dark eyes, fringed by deep lashes, and her lovely lips. But presently my rage returned. I remembered that I was forever deprived of the delights that such beautiful creatures could bestow, and that she whose resemblance I contemplated would, in regarding me, have changed that air of divine benignity to one expressive of disgust and affright. Can you wonder that such thoughts transported me with rage? I only wonder that at that moment, instead of venting my sensations and exclamations in agony, I did not rush among mankind and perish in the attempt to destroy them. While I was overcome by these feelings, I left the spot where I had committed the murder, and seeking a more secluded hiding place, I entered a barn which had appeared to me to be empty. A woman was sleeping on some straw. She was young, not indeed so beautiful as her whose portrait I held, but of an agreeable aspect and blooming in the loveliness of youth and health. Here, I thought, is one of those whose joy-imparting smiles are bestowed on all but me. And then I bent over her and whispered, "Awake, fairest, thy lover is near." He who would give his life but to obtain one look of affection from thine eyes. My beloved, awake. The sleeper stirred. A thrill of terror ran through me. Should she indeed awake and see me and curse me and denounce the murderer? Thus would she assuredly act if her darkened eyes opened and she beheld me. The thought was madness. It stirred the fiend within me. Not I, but she shall suffer. The murder I have committed because I am forever robbed of all that she could give me. She shall atone. The crime had its source in her. Be hers the punishment. Thanks to the lessons of Felix and the sanguinary laws of man, I had learned now to work mischief. I bent over her and placed the portrait securely in one of the folds of her dress. She moved again, and I fled. For some days I haunted the spot where these scenes had taken place, sometimes wishing to see you, sometimes resolved to quit the world and its miseries forever. At length I wandered towards these mountains, and have ranged through their immense recesses, consumed by a burning passion which you alone can gratify. We may not part until you have promised to comply with my requisition. I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me, but one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create. It's so good, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good. I'm So he wants him to create a bride. He wants him to create a bride. Yeah. So chapter 17. Chapter 17 is where we will continue when we next have a reading stream, which I know it's such a good book. It's such a good book. Like, I hope you can tell just how into it I am. Like, I'm really into it. Wait, this is a book, please. Just don't call her Eve, or that'll make all sorts of books a little weirder. People just get a little lonely sometimes, even monsters. My diary. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. You sillies, you silly sillies, you big sillies, you big fillies, as I say. Oh god, hence the fluffing of them. I can't believe. I can't believe. And before I can fix him. Literally that. Literally. I can fix him.